Alright, horror fans, it is finally time to talk about the Scream franchise once again because Scream 7 is officially underway because it is now in production, that the cameras are rolling, especially with Kevin Williamson, who is directing this movie, this installment, and with Neve Campbell, who we all know and love as our Scream Queen, our final girl, who is coming back as Sidney Prescott for the seventh installment in this franchise. Not only do we have our first official look aside from the logo and the release date, I'm going to break it down on what to expect for the next installment as it is coming out in 2026 next year. So that's when we look forward to a new Scream movie. But also to talk about this could head in the right direction, and that's what I'm going to break down right here, right now. And so if you're new, then be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so much on any future videos, including for Scream news, because we're going to be getting a lot. But now let's get into it. And now, I'm going to start off this video by saying, if you've been keeping up with the timeline of events leading up to Scream 7, because especially with the fact that I love Scream, I love this franchise. It is the go-to horror movie franchise that is basically a whodunit, and even if we all know this franchise inside and out, especially as it introduced the horror movie character Ghostface, ever since they rebooted this franchise with Scream 5 and Scream 6, and even though it introduced us to a new group of characters, especially for the Carpenter sisters, played by Jenna Ortega and Melissa Barrera, and even though Scream 5 was like a nice introduction back into the franchise, as it also brought back Sidney Prescott back into the franchise as well. But even ever since Scream 6 came along and Sidney Prescott was no longer a part of that, and they explained her absence perfectly, and it was very much explained in a way for the viewer to understand, especially for the main audience who are fans of this franchise. But even ever since that movie, and they were looking for ideas, especially with Scream 7. But even though ever since the recent events before Scream 7 was about to go into production, and even that they brought on Christopher Landon, who is a big time horror movie lover, like he's a hardcore fan of scary movies, and he was passionate. But it all started from Melissa Barrera being fired from the franchise ever since her posting on the recent events. If you know what I'm talking about, it basically turned people against Spyglass because they're the ones who are in charge of the franchise. And even since they let go of Melissa Barrera, and even if you keep up all of the controversy and all the behind the scenes drama, and even ever since Melissa Barrera, and not only that, but Jenna Ortega also dropped out as well. Even now with Scream 7 as I'm moving forward and bringing back Neve Campbell's Sidney Prescott back into the picture, and with Kevin Williamson, who is now who's like the face of this franchise, written the script for it, but because I think he had control over it, but the fact that he's now coming back to direct one of his creative installments in this franchise. He's now directing Scream 7, and that's the part that's really concerning me. And even though that we have a release date for, I think, February 27th of 2026, so next year we're getting a new Scream movie, so mark your calendars. Now, just with this update that came today, we have some big news, is that we got our first look at Scream 7, and that is with our picture here, and that is posted by Kevin Williamson on his Instagram, and that is with the official logo for Scream 7, and it kind of shows that, man, this thing exists now. It's no longer a myth, because we all thought, oh, this is going to be canceled, this was going to be scrapped. But no, they're actually moving forward with the next Scream movie, and I just hope if it's any good, because even if you look at Scream 6, that became the highest grossing horror movie in 2023. And also, I want to touch upon the logo that has been revealed. So it's not like in Roman numerals, it's just like the number 7 in the official title. So that's the official title for Scream 7. I'm glad that they're keeping it that way, especially this is from Scream, I think from the first 4 Scream movies that they have actual numbers, but for Scream 5 and 6 they have Roman numerals, but that was for Scream 6. But now, especially with the 7th installment, they're keeping it nice and fresh with just the number 7 in the title. And now, I want to go over this post that Kevin Williamson put to his Instagram, especially with this long caption, that is not only respectful to the fans, but also to the studio as well. And now it goes like this. I'm not supposed to post about Scream, and I hope Spyglass and Paramount will forgive me, but when you have one of the best days of your life, it's really hard to keep it to yourself. What an extraordinary day I have working with an amazing and talented cast and crew. They brought their A-game and have my back every step of the way. I'm so very grateful for this opportunity, and to Wes Craven, who is on my mind through it all. The profound impact he has had on my life and career is endless. What a day. I can't wait for tomorrow. And now, I think that right there is respectful, because Kevin Williamson probably had the time of his life on set, and it was one of the best days I had working with a cast and crew. But just with that opening sentence right there, that he was not supposed to post about Scream 7, and he hopes that the studio will forgive him. And even though he told him not to talk about it, but it's really suspicious in a way. And even though that he thinks Wes Craven, because even with the man who is behind this franchise, he brought us into this world of the horror genre, and that's what I love about the man. Like, you know, Wes Craven's work is endless, especially as his legacy will always live on, especially what Christopher Landon was going to bring to this franchise, and he was going to pay that legacy to Wes Craven and probably bring some new layer. Also, keep it simple to the franchise that we all know and love. At the same time, it just has to be skeptical about what they're going to do with the 7th installment, because even after what happened with Scream 6, especially I thought the Carpenter sisters, that storyline was going to live on, but turns out it was not. But especially with the 7th installment, that's going to focus heavily on Sidney's family. And even with the cast, as we know of so far, and that's with Mason Gooding, who is returning as Chad Meeks. Celeste O'Connor is joining, in case you're familiar with her, with Madam Web and Ghostbusters. McKenna Grace, Sam Rayner as a German who is also from like The Boys and Gen V, Anna Camp, and also Isabel May. And even that, it is confirmed that Isabel May is going to be playing the daughter of Sidney Prescott. So it's very much confirmed that this installment is going to focus heavily on Sidney's family. And even though I like to know about her family and what she's been up to, like especially with her family that has been in hiding from Ghostface. But I gotta know, like, how is this story gonna play out? Like, what's going to be the opening kill? Like, how are they gonna like bring back the fan base back into this franchise, especially after the success of Scream 6? But even though that we're not going to be continuing the previous storyline with the Carpenter sisters, how are they going to focus it on like a new story perspective, and now that Sidney Prescott is back in the game in this franchise? And I just better hope that it is damn good and it makes a lot of money, because even like I don't know how many fans are going to show up to this movie. I think we have a Courtney Cox, who is Gail Weathers, also returning to the 7th installment, but that with her returning, and even though that she was not going to return to the franchise in Scream 7 after all the drama but now that she is signed on to return, and this installment is going to continue Sidney's story, and especially like how we're going to follow up on her and her journey, and especially like after all this time, and like especially like, I think there's going to be certain points throughout the movie. I think there's also going to be a time jump, because I think it's going to take like years, especially within a new timeline, and just with the overall perspective of it, and it's just like, man, it's just like so hard to think about that a new Scream movie is in production with the return of Neve Campbell's Sidney Prescott, but also not continuing the Carpenter sisters' storyline and just move on to a whole new thing, but bringing Sidney Prescott, man, it is like so hard to take in. But at the same time, I am excited as well. I mean, I love Scream. It is the ultimate horror movie franchise, and especially with there are rumors that Patrick Dempsey might come back from Scream 3. We may never know until that official announcement, especially with the big question that I am going to be wondering as well, is how are fans going to respond to the new Scream movie now that it's coming out in 2026, and especially like if it'll win at the box office, because with the last Scream movie, like I mentioned, it's like the highest grossing movie of that calendar year of 2023. But just with Scream 7 alone, it'll probably win at the box office. It'll probably make like a few $1 million, because I mean, with the Scream franchise, it has its fan base, it has its audience of die-hard horror movie fans that show up to these movies day one. It's been a consistent horror movie franchise it's been like consistent with the storytelling, to the elements, to the scares, and also just have a fun time in this genre as well. And that's what I find the most interesting and the most curious way for how they're gonna win back the fan base. I don't know if this is on my radar, but until we see like official trailer footage for how the movie is going to look, and especially if they're gonna bring back any other returning characters from the classic franchise, including with Matthew Lillard's Stu Monker. So with that, like, man, it's got my head going spiral just with the fact that they're moving forward with this next Scream movie, like bringing in a new cast of young kids, or like should I say adults, of course, but to continue the story of Sidney Prescott's family and where that lies in the timeline. I think it's also sort of important just to keep it to that as well. But just with the fact, and I'm also like, thank God that we're not like moving on or rebooting the franchise with whole new characters, because that's gonna be so hard to capitalize off of that as well. But yeah, it's sort of like controversy on my mind as well. Yeah, and just with my final thoughts overall with this next Scream movie that is in production, that is coming out in 2026, and I just hope if it's any good, if the fans are gonna respond to this movie well, and how will the Rotten Tomatoes scores look. And I bet I can only imagine that it's going to be slightly controversial with the return of the Scream franchise, just without the Carpenter sisters and everything that went down with the controversy, all the behind-the-scenes drama with going into Scream 7. But it's also exciting as well. We are getting back a Sidney Prescott. They are bringing in Kevin Williamson, who is the pioneer, the writer behind this franchise, who's going to be directing a lot of his creative visions within the franchise. So yeah, it's supposed to be a very good time for us horror fans, because I think we should be expecting a lot of like news and updates about Scream 7, the next installment, and yeah, so it should be a fun time here. But that's going to do it for this video. Just let me know in the comments below, and what is your excitement rate for Scream 7 now that it's finally in production? And if you have controversy or drama behind this, just let me know in the comments below, and your opinions on this, just with everything that we know of so far. Just let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the notifications about videos. And also follow all my social medias, all the links down below. And with that, I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.